A game I never played back in the day was the original Mafia, and when I went searching for more games like GTA, I found this game, but I kinda skipped past it. I'll admit, after hearing about the clunky controls, high difficulty, and a certain nearly impossible race, I just wrote it off as just another relic of the past that wasn't really worth going back and playing. But after hearing news that this game was being remade from the ground up and just how amazing it looked, I was hyped. I was excited to play this game. One of my favorite movies of all time is Goodfellas, and I was addicted to shows like Sopranos. The fantasy of being a goon for the mob has always been appealing to me. It's like being a gunslinger in the Wild West or plundering the seas during the golden age of piracy. It's the reason why I love the GTA series, Black Flag, Red Dead Redemption. And it wasn't even about being a murdering psychopath either, well, maybe with GTA, but characters like Nico Bellic, John Marston, Edward Kenway, these characters felt so human, so grounded. We love these characters because they're the underdogs, trying to survive by any means necessary in a rough world, and they took an offer they couldn't refuse. They say the road to hell is paved with good intentions. Well, these characters, they're like a physical embodiment of that phrase. Mafia, the definitive edition, is a masterpiece, and it was my gateway drug into the rest of the series. It reminded me of some of the best mob films ever made, and it's a shining example of a remake done right. I'm genuinely excited to see more news for Mafia the Old Country, and it's being made by Hangar 13, so I trust that it's in good hands. Then we have remakes that are such a slap in the face to fans, they literally hurt the legacy of the original games. I love the Pokémon series, and we've had no shortage of remakes: Fire Red and Leaf Green, Heart Gold and Soul Silver, Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. Heart Gold and Soul Silver, they're arguably the best Pokemon games ever made, and they're remakes of Game Boy Color games on the DS. Everything from the sprite work to the music, it's absolutely beautiful, and they even added the ability for all the Pokemon to follow you. Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, on the other hand, are just ugly to look at. I'm sorry, but these chibis do not capture any of the soul from the original games. Everything just feels so cheap and cookie cutter. Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, they pushed the 3DS to its limits. And when they first announced BDSP, this is what I imagined they'd look like. Just look at this fan-made trailer in the background side by side with the game we got, and you'll understand why fans were so upset. BDSP, it was full of visual bugs, the added features felt tacked on, the Pokemon followers didn't really work, it lacked content, everything that made Platinum so good, it wasn't even brought back. Pokemon weren't true to size, the EXP share was always on, they couldn't even give us an option to toggle it off, taking away any sense of challenge. In the original games, they sold for $40 on the DS, and they charged $60 for this on Switch, without really adding anything new for existing fans. These are by far the worst Pokemon games in the entire series, and this is an example of how not to do a remake. Luckily though, I haven't had the misfortune of experiencing a lot of bad remakes. They've only really been disappointing at most, and they still end up being good games on their own. The Final Fantasy VII Remake and Resident Evil 3 Remake being a couple of examples. I still had fun with them, even if I didn't get exactly what I asked for. And if I really wanted to, I know I can still play the originals and have a great time. At the end of the day, they get drowned out by all the incredible remakes anyways, like the RE2 and RE4 remake, Dead Space, the Spyro and Crash trilogies. I haven't played the Silent Hill 2 remake yet or Dragon Quest III HD 2D, but they look great too. I just hope that the censorship isn't too on the nose. You know, because Dead Rising, I cannot unsee the race swaps and the changes to the character models and dialogue. I just wanted some minor touch-ups to the frustrating AI in the first game. I never asked for my M-rated game to be scared it might offend me. Remasters, though, they can be complicated. I think this is where we're seeing most of the fatigue with revisiting old games in the industry. Sony's remasters, they just confused the hell out of me. Did Spider-Man, The Last of Us, and Horizon Zero Dawn really need visual overhauls? I feel like they all hold up on current gen consoles, and these updates, they feel unnecessary. Remastering games that still look and feel good to play takes away from precious development time that could be directed towards new projects. Why not revisit Jak and Daxter or Sly Cooper if you're gonna remaster your legacy titles? Hell, you could re-release Bloodborne with no touch-ups at all and just have it run at 60 frames per second, and I could see it being a console seller. That's how in demand it is. There's literally an entire community behind emulating this game on PC for this very reason. Then there's Rockstar, and I feel like they were the straw that broke the camel's back when it comes to remasters. Why has it taken over 2 years since the last update to this game? Just to get it to the standard of quality they should have released it in, and then they could have worked on it from there. Just know I found out about this update the other day, and I haven't jumped back in to see it for myself, whether it's worth it to play the remasters over the originals yet. You know how gaming news goes. But I've heard they pulled Grove Street Games from the project and they made hundreds of fixes. The lighting finally looks like the PS2 original on San Andreas, and they added fog back, which was the biggest issue I had with the game. It just made everything feel so small, not having that layer of fog. And thank God too, because these games are masterpieces that put Rockstar on the map. They did not deserve this type of treatment. We also have games like Skyrim and GTA 5 that have been re-released so many damn times, but why haven't we seen any type of remasters for GTA 4, Oblivion? Come on, Morrowind! These companies have a money printing machine. Fallout 3, New Vegas? If you're gonna be lazy and remaster your old games, at least give us some variety. We already know you won't work on AA projects anymore and you want to prey on our nostalgia. How come modders are doing what Bethesda can't with fan remakes like Skyblivion and Skywind? How come we're seeing fan-made projects like Fallout London? And while I'm at it, why is the 7th Heaven mods the remaster of Final Fantasy VII we never got? Look, seeing your favorite games be updated with modern visuals and quality of life can be amazing, but I've said this before, if it means we can't get games like back in the day with Bully, seriously, why is there no Bully 2? Then I don't want to see remasters anymore. I'd rather just play the originals and be done with it. You'd think this would be an easy win, right? The world building, the story, the art, it's already there. I'm not a game developer, but I imagine it's easier than making an entirely new IP or a sequel. I really have this love-hate relationship with remakes and remasters, because like I mentioned, it gives me an excuse to jump back into my favorite games and have them look and feel like I imagine they did in the past, but they've ultimately taken the place of all the side projects we used to see all the time. Games that turned into franchises. Now it's like everything just feels like the franchiseification of what was successful in the past, and the old AAA industry got picked up by the indie market. How come Stardew Valley is the best Harvest Moon game I ever played? How is it that Hellskate is one of the most unique games I've ever seen? Seriously, a Tony Hawk's Pro Skater hack and slash game? You will never see AAA games with this much creativity anymore. How come Night Runners feels more like a Need for Speed game than anything EA has released since the Black Box era, and it's just a demo? How come I have to play No Sun to Worship just to get my Metal Gear Solid fix? I'm so tired of seeing so many reworkings of low quality, and I know I'm part of the problem too because I keep on buying them. It's to the point where I'm complaining about remasters while at the same time talking about the games I want to see remastered. Have I completely lost my mind? But I know what I'm actually wanting, and that's consistency. God of War 1 and 2 were my favorite games back in the day on the PlayStation 2. They had endless replayability. It was so easy to pick up, like a lot of games were, and it had a crazy set pieces that would happen during gameplay, and you would expect some level of consistency moving forward. Instead, we have these generic third-person, over-the-shoulder cinematic style games, and I can't help but feel like as a fan, I got left behind. How about instead of remakes and remasters and reboots, we get new games that feel like they were made by the same people that made our favorite games? Just look at Platinum games. You know when you're playing a Platinum game. Bayonetta, the Nier games, Astral Chain, Metal Gear Revengeance, Vanquish. Even when they're entirely different games, they have that level of consistency, that identity, that DNA. From Software, you like Dark Souls? Look at Sekiro, Bloodborne, Elden Ring, Armored Core 6. You know you're playing a FromSoft game. Every new game they make doesn't have to reinvent the wheel, and somehow I feel nostalgic when playing them. Elden Ring isn't a reboot or a remake or some wildly different direction from their old formula. It's an ever-evolving reiteration of what built their fanbase. And to me, that's worth more than revisiting an already existing game with updated visuals. I can still play those old games, and most of them hold up just fine. I'm not saying we shouldn't still get remasters and remakes, yada yada. I think there's room for every type of game, even the open world and the movie style of games that I'm so exhausted of. What I'm really asking for, and what I think a lot of other people are wanting, is just more balance, and that's something we used to have before this franchise machine started spinning its wheels. As always, I appreciate you making it all the way to the end of this video, and let me know down in the comments, do you think the industry is too over-reliant on established IPs? What's your favorite remake or remaster of all time? For me, it's gotta be the Resident Evil 2 remake. It was such a tightly packed experience, and I've replayed it so many times. But I'm gonna go now and play some more Dark Souls Remastered on Switch. Okay, bye.